Well, hello. Once again, welcome to the inService podcast series. My name is John Carroll. I'm the CEO and founder of the Service Council, and welcome to today's session, whether it's good morning or good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. Maybe even good late afternoon to some of our European market that's joining us. Really excited about today's discussion. I think it's a real important discussion. We look at obviously technology investment trends. And over time, we're seeing the continuance of a focus on BI and knowledge management and field service management systems and CRM. Every year, those are some of the top technology investments. And I got to tell you, I don't think it's that people are displacing their legacy enterprise back office systems every year. I think what they're doing is they're thinking about how do we continuously make it flexible to our business needs, and how do we evolve our technology approach over time in support of the changing evolution of our business. And so today's topical discussion will be talking about building a flexible service tech stack. And I'm so incredibly pleased to be joined by one of our newest appointees to our technology advisory board. His name is Prateek Chakravarty. He is the CEO of Zinier. A very warm welcome to you, Prateek. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, John, and excited to be here with you and the audience.
Outstanding. I am a little bit worn this week. We had a workshop down at Comfort Systems USA. A quick shout out to John Eberhardt and Joe Lang and Anthony Billups and the whole group there for hosting ourselves and 30 plus members from the council talking about how do we innovate in service and our approach to service and the business, and how do we become a next generational services leader. We talked about technology a lot, so thank you to Comfort Systems USA once again. But I've got a lot of coffee, Prateek, so I think we'll be good for this one. So let's go ahead and jump in. For our listening audience, we hope that you become our participating audience. If you're joining us from LinkedIn Live, thank you. Hello, wave. And please do engage by commenting, and we'll try to fit time in to get a response from Prateek in terms of any questions or reactions you might have to our discussion. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. Prateek, I know you. The community, a lot of the community knows you, but for those that might not know you, why don't we start with an introduction to yourself, some personal and professional background, and then we'll get into the company.
Sure, John. Thank you. And looking forward to interacting with the audience today. Really excited about that.
Outstanding.
About me, born and raised in India, middle class, humble background, studied mechanical engineering. Got that from my dad, who happened to be a field service engineer as well
Cool.
in fertilizer factories and oil and gas industries. Studied mechanical engineering, wanted to travel the world. 25 years back, found a job as a field service engineer. That was the first phase of my life. Spent my first 8 years in oil and gas and utilities, lived in 11 countries, loved it. That's where the passion for field service comes in. Moved to the US for my master's. We talked about our Boston connection and
That's
the
right.
Boston fan base.
Yes.
Did my MBA there, switched over to a corporate investing role in a utility on the West Coast. The last 15 years, I've been an entrepreneur. This is my second startup. The first one was sustainability driven, bringing AI to utilities with the sustainability angle. Loved it. And I've been at Zinier for the past 4 years.
That's awesome. What a great background. That's amazing. We talk about the field service engineer and the plight of the field service engineer, that the day-to-day that they face, and how engagement has been challenged, and how a lot of organizations are focused on career pathing. And here we have a former field service engineer who's now the CEO of an emerging, thriving technology provider to the field service sector. So if you're thinking about career pathing, here is a potential path for you. Prateek just navigated it over the last several decades. So kudos to you. Zinier is becoming more popular. I got to tell you, we're hearing more about Zinier in the marketplace, making an impact. And so kudos to you in terms of building awareness to all the goodness you're making with your customers. For our audience that's not familiar, could you maybe introduce the company? What is the journey that you've been on at Zinier as an organization? And what's next for the company in terms of the pathway forward?
Sure, John. So we are a field service automation platform. It's a software platform. We work with field service delivery organizations, helping them schedule and manage their workforce, their assets, this helping build a smart, connected, digitized world, right? So that's the standard response.
Sure.
I like to, John, start with why do we exist?
Yeah.
I wish I could tell you that my entire career was mapped. It wasn't. And I'm proud of my field service background. I always tell people there has to be passion behind what you do. So for us at Zinier, the why is important. And if you look at the workforce, and these are McKinsey stats, 2.7 billion people, 80% of the workforce are on the front line. They're not people
Yeah.
like you and I who are working behind a desk and getting stuff done. Yet when you talk about innovation, innovation is focused on people like us. Why?
Yeah.
Because entrepreneurs come from our backgrounds, right? So they are
Yeah.
solving the problems they see. So when I was in the field, I spent 9 years there. Everything was focused on the back office. Everything was focused on the office work. Doing the job on the field was challenging.
Yeah.
We are driven by the idea of how can we take innovation to the front lines. That's why Zinier exists. That's why the concept of flexibility comes in, which we'll talk about. For me, that is the passion. If
Outstanding.
we know we are solving a relevant problem where we are empowering the field to do their jobs better, we are making progress. Technology happens to be an enabler. The configurability or the no code, low code is a tool that is helping us solve the problem. So day in and day out, we are driven by the fact that how can we make lives easier for the people who are on the front lines and the people supporting them. We are
Outstanding.
we have been on a journey. It's a
Yeah.
platform play. Thanks for the kind words. We're growing well.
It's great.
Our vision is we want to create a technology that we can hand over to our customers and say you are running with it. It's a digital transformation journey. We're not there yet. It's just starting. As you know, most of our customers are transitioning from pen and paper to digital, so you have to
Sure.
hold your hand. But we envision a world where those frontline peoples are enabled with technology, and we are the enablers that are helping them operate. And
That's
that's
great.
what drives us. That's what drives us at Zinier.
That's great. That's great. Any sort of industries or sizes of organizations or any pockets of the world where you're seeing the most growth for the company? Where are you hearing? There's a lot of commonality of shared
Sure.
pain and pressures across industry and sector, but I'm sure you're making growth in certain verticals and certain market segments. Anything that you can
Yeah.
share with our audience?
Yeah, sure, John. So the good part is we're talking about industries
Yep.
that are everywhere and touches every aspect of life. We're
Sure.
talking about industries that make sure that you have electricity and gas and
Yep.
connectivity and energy inside your homes.
Yep.
So we tend to deal with industrials, making sure you're manufacturing the right product and providing the right service.
Yep.
We're big in energy, telcos, industrials, uh, any industry that employs people on the front lines to get work done.
Outstanding.
We are great digital transformation partners because we're talking about a platform that is flexible and driving digital transformation. So our customer sizes are slightly bigger, I would say, mid-enterprise to enterprise,
Sure.
where we come in and enable a digital transformation of the service delivery operations. We're big in the Americas, US, LATAM, Europe.
Great.
We are expanding into APAC. Uh, you know, there is field service delivery needs everywhere.
Sure.
We're also being cognizant of how we are growing and expanding.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Let's go ahead and get into the topic du jour. So, looking at the journey that field service technology has embarked on for the last several decades, it's not like uncommon or atypical from any functional silo, right?
Mhm.
When you think about, back office ERP, they were outgunned by some of these best of breed applications in terms of functionality, and then APIs, they plug these in, and all of a sudden they had more improved function and process and commitment to that line of business function, right? And then you saw a lot of consolidation where the big ERP giant or CRM giant scoops up that best of breed application, and they have, that's why we've seen a lot of consolidation. But can we start with like the complexity of the enterprise tech stack and how a typical service, field service or mobile technology integrates with back office enterprise systems? Can you just talk a little bit about your viewpoint on sort of the tech stack for a traditional field service organization? And then I've got a follow up behind that.
Yeah, sure, sure. So, and then it's a good question, John, and you've captured the complexity in your question. So, think of the world of these field service companies 25 years back, or maybe
Right.
30 years back, right?
Yeah.
Their job was to service and equipment or deliver electricity, deliver phone service to a home. Right?
Yep.
Completely different world. They're not data or technology driven. Internet comes in, you have to be data driven, and you start adopting technologies. And every function of the business probably has a software, whether it's
Yep.
CRM, whether it's ERP, whether it's asset management, whether it's anything customer facing, support related. Everything has a software today. Now, for a company whose DNA is not in technology, how do you make sense out of it?
Yep.
Organizations are learning, right? They are learning. You're seeing the evolving role of a CIO or a CDO trying to stitch things together, and there lies the challenge. Can organizations take a big picture view and see how these systems need to integrate and have an overall approach towards what I say solving a problem? Because
Yeah.
the biggest challenge I see is people get enamored with technology, they tend to lose sight of the problem.
Yeah.
And as these organizations are growing, as you have new technologies coming in, as entrepreneurs, it is easy for us to talk about technology. But if I'm not helping our customers understand the problem to be solved, this problem, the challenge just exacerbates. And one of the
Yeah.
biggest things we hear is, oh, I want Gen AI, I want Gen AI. Yes, what problem are you solving? I can help you think through it. Now you will buy a technology that does Gen AI, but how does it stitch into your technology stack?
Yeah.
It is a constant challenge, John. It is a constant challenge. That's why I call it, digital transformation is not a project, it's a journey.
Yep.
We tend to work well with customers who have that mindset, who
Mhm.
have leaders who understand that it's a process of constant change.
Absolutely.
You need to have all your software packages. You need to make sure it's interoperable. Data is flowing in from one system to other. Everything is talking to each other,
Yeah.
and you have someone who understands the big picture and works with partners like us to enable this journey. Enable this journey.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Yeah, we're going to get into that interoperability challenge in terms of democratization of data and how do we, create that single pane of glass view. We're going to get to that. Let me build off of my first question around the tech stack with what is Zinier hearing, right? There's got to be some common sort of customer issues that you're encountering. What are some of the things, traditionally speaking, that you hear across, you know, absent of any sort of industry nuance, something that's maybe industry agnostic, that's more of a common issue that you hear from your customers?
The number one thing we are hearing, John, is the dearth of skilled labor on the front lines.
Yeah.
Unanimous, number one.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it makes logical sense, right?
Yep.
25 years back, I started my journey as a field service engineer. I did mechanical engineering from a very reputed institute. I was excited to go out into the field. I was
Yeah.
looking for that experience. If I remember correctly, 8 of the 10 largest companies in the world were industrial companies, right?
Yeah.
So you had a career path, you would go into the field. I spent 5 years into the field, moved into management, loved it, amazing. I had other people doing it. Today, what do our kids want to do? They want to code.
Yeah.
Why? 8 of the 10 largest companies are tech companies.
Yeah.
If majority of the people are going into coding, where do you find talent from? And when I connect with the leaders and CEOs of the companies, some get it, some absolutely get it, others
Yeah.
don't. Why? If you look at the evolution of field service companies, historically, we have focused on productivity, and productivity for us was getting the person at the right place at the right time. So we have
Yeah.
optimized on scheduling and we have all the algorithms and stuff.
Yeah.
How it is impacting the lives of people,
Yeah.
how are they getting empowered? We have never thought about it.
Yeah.
Right? That is the number one. That unanimously, whether you drill down, they will come and say, hey, we need productivity, this and this. Why? Why? We need
Right.
productivity because I'm finding it difficult to hire people.
Right. Right.
And I think that's the biggest challenge we have to solve. If you're not empowering people on the front lines, if you're not, I call it making the job sexy again for them,
Yeah.
it's going to be tough. I mean, these
Yeah.
are industries that, as I said, core industries in our life. You're talking about building roads and
Yeah.
mining and electricity, gas, internet, industrials. We're going to struggle.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The skill set challenge and shortage, and The fight or war for talent, it continues. And in fact, we built that Comfort Systems USA workshop we held
Mhm.
earlier this week around three elements. One was people, one was technology, and one was more of the financial side of things. So how do you partner with the CFO and the financial department, et cetera? How do you go on a journey of servitization or outcome
Yeah,
based or proactive service? We talked a lot about. But in the area of people, there was a lot of talk about, how do we make the industry fun again, right? You look at like automotive, right? Automotive has become a little bit sexy again because of this whole EV
correct. Yeah,
evolution.
yeah,
And
yeah.
now a career as an EV technician is kind of like white collar versus the blue collar. Oh, you're going to get your fingers dirty and turn a wrench on a normal, regular automotive car, right? So there's an element of making it fun. And attracting new talent is something we hear as just a real critical part right now. In fact, we heard this omni-channel approach, and one of the channels where people are finding talent commonly now, TikTok, believe it or not.
Hmm.
Gen Z, that's where they herd to. There's a lot of younger generation that are on TikTok, and that's becoming a channel of source for new talent, is what we heard from Comfort Systems and others over the course of our workshop. Let's get into the technology again, if we could, in terms of the intention of a field service management system and what it is intended to automate. Can you talk a little bit about your viewpoint on what is a traditional sort of enterprise field service management system intend to do, and maybe where are there gaps or opportunities to improve that?
Yeah. So in simple terms, John, if you're looking at a service delivery organization,
Yeah.
um, they have a task to be done.
Hmm.
Whether some kind of a service request, the service request generates, you assign people and resources to it. A person goes out into the field to execute the task, and you keep the customer informed, and you close the loop. You're pulling in data from your CRM, ERP, asset management systems. So interoperability becomes very important, right?
Sure.
So let's say in simple terms, I were to break it up into three pieces. There's the back office planning part, there is the field execution, there's the customer part. There have been field service management systems, platforms for the past 30, 40 years.
Sure.
Historically, and we were briefly talking about it, a lot of focus was on the back office part. Why? Because if you run your algorithms, if you schedule your resources well, if you plan well, you can save a lot of money. And then
Indeed.
just send the person to the field to get the job done. 20 years back, I was that person going into the field, will get
Yep.
the job done. Limited support. Customer keeping the customer informed was also not that important. To think of a few years back, waiting for your utility service to come up, and they would give you a 6 hour window, and you're waiting at home to get the job done.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So there were pain points, right?
Yep.
Now, as the thing evolves, we talked about focusing on the people. Yes, yes, we are
Yeah.
focused on the back office. Can we focus on the frontline people? Can we focus on the customers?
Yeah.
And how do we empower them?
Yep.
How do we call it tailored or configurable or flexible? And
Sure.
a simple example I use is uh, let's say you have two technicians going out into the field.
Hmm.
On paper, they're doing the same job. They're coming to your house to fix your gas service or any service, right? Your home might be different than my home, so your workflows may be different than mine.
Yep.
How can you have the same software empowering the person, right? Have you thought about the person might run into issues while doing the service?
Yep.
How can you empower them to do the job right at the first time? Like, how do you keep the customer informed?
Yep.
So now you see, as you're talking about a platform, you're looking at the problems to be solved and then bringing in technology to solve those problems.
Yep.
That mindset is important. It's a more holistic mindset, it's a more flexible mindset on how you drive operational value throughout the field service value chain.
Outstanding. Let's get into the transformational process if we could, right? So there's probably some common denominators in terms of Zinier's customers and how they've transformed. Can you maybe distill some of those best practices? Who is involved? Is it IT driving the bus? Is it line of business service? Is it shared? maybe you can distill some of the best practices in terms of change management for our
Absolutely.
listening
Absolutely.
audience. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I think there's a standard part of our offering, which is the field service automation platform. Our
Yeah.
customers, they have seen it, all the features are there.
Yeah.
They understand that. The newer aspects where we're bringing in a low code, no code platform with the customizable workflows, we're
Hmm.
tailoring intelligence using Gen AI for the developers or for the end customers, that has a change component to it. Right?
Sure.
The, the, the first thing to get, and I tell all my customers, that digital transformation is not a project, it's a journey.
Yeah.
And that mindset is very important. There are customers who get it, others they don't. It's not a check the box, hey, we'll just
Yeah.
install Zinier and it becomes, I've done with my digital transformation, right? I'll give you a simple example and come back to the digital transformation story. We
Sure.
are implementing a solution in a big customer in the UK, right? They're moving from pen and paper to our platform. So imagine that the adoption, and we're about to go live, the training and enablement, everything has to be different.
Yeah.
I was doing a review with my team yesterday, and I learned that we are just following the training and enablement process of the customer. My simple question was, how can you expect their existing training and enablement process to work in a digital world where it's a new
Right.
solution, right?
Right.
So if you map the journey, it starts with the right mindset that it's a process, right? It's not a project. The second thing I tell people is break it into smaller chunks.
Hmm.
Even from a delivery process perspective, yeah, don't do
Yep.
waterfall, do agile. Why? Because break it into smaller chunks and look for value quickly.
Yeah.
Look for value quickly. Have a VC mindset, have an investor mindset that, hey, keep an eye on the cost and look at the value.
Hmm.
Historically, you tend to do a big bang project, and if it doesn't work. And I was thinking about this talk today, John. I've been involved in 3 corporate digital transformation projects outside my startups. All 3 have failed. Big oil and gas companies, big utilities. They have run for 12 to 18 months and they had to scrap it out.
Right.
So breaking it into smaller chunks, deliver value immediately, have a VC mindset. And the other part is communicate well. Communication across stakeholders.
Yeah.
So very important.
Yeah.
So very important. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh, I'll give you another example. It's all coming. This is weeks stuff that it's getting refreshed, but I like giving examples. So
I love it.
we are we are about to make a drop at a big customer's. We were about to make a drop on Feb 19th, right? Another big customer. So it will be a software drop. So they're doing, I think, hybrid waterfall and agile. Suddenly we get a call from the customer's team saying, hey, can you do the drop 2 weeks earlier, and work with us? We can do a joint testing so that we get into system integration testing quickly. I said, okay,
Sure.
fine, we'll do it. It's on our master control document, everything done. We are ready for a drop. Last week, one of the team comes and says, hey, sorry, I was not aware of it. Customer side. Well, it's a big customer. There are multiple teams. It's in the master control document. You expect that it will be done. But one of the teams was not ready, so we didn't do it. So we are going back to the 19th date. The simple stuff, we assume that it's in the master control document. But the stakeholder communication and making
Yeah.
sure over communicate across the board becomes very important.
Absolutely.
It's tough, man. It's a passion thing for us. We truly
Yeah.
believe in it because then only we can make the change in the industry. Huh?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the things that was a little bit alarming from the Voice of the Field Service Engineer survey that we conduct annually, we go to the front line and we talk to them about a day in the life of, and it talks about removal of friction, empowerment. How do you feel about your organization, management, about the career? So it's a really in-depth survey. But one of the questions that, or two of the questions that really struck me as, oh gosh, we got to improve here is only 41% of frontline employees, excuse me, not only, an alarming amount, 41% of frontline employees didn't believe they had a role in innovation. And then even worse, 6 out of 10 didn't feel that management listened and or enacted change based on their feedback for business improvement. So when we're talking about distilling the common practices of change management, the involvement of the frontline is quite critical in that process, getting their viewpoint, what are the friction points they encounter, so on and so forth. So I'm curious, we're talking about, digital transformation, who should be involved in it. And then post-mortem, there's this, why aren't we getting adoption? Why is adoption trailing, the where we expected it to be, right? So adoption of the new technology becomes a real critical challenge. We're hearing time and time again from members. So if I could ask you, how do you create less of an adversarial role between technology and the front line? And how do we get adoption rates higher? It still
Yeah,
is an alarming issue that we hear in many of the digital transformations that we're tracking.
yeah, no, it's a fair point, and I truly I expected that 41% to be higher, John. See, people mistake digital transformation as a technology play.
Yeah,
Yes, technology is involved, but it's about delivering value.
right.
And if you look at the stakeholders, right, you have to figure out what value is being delivered. You
Yeah,
have to get them involved and participate in user journeys. That's what we do. Why are we so excited about flexibility in the field? Because we have seen that pain point. Because we know that today I might be going out to do a job. My workflow today will be different than what I have tomorrow. How can you expect me to fill the same mobile forms that I was filling yesterday? Right. And by the way, why should you take 5, 7, 10 days to change my mobile work form?
right.
So you have to boil it down to the value. Go down to the value, get them involved in user journeys. One thing that we do when we implement is we
Hmm.
go out on ride-alongs with our field technicians. We try to understand what they do.
Yeah,
The mindset comes in, and when you focus on that, when you make them a part of innovation, make them a part of the journey, adoption will come. I gave you the example of the learning and enablement thing, right? How can
sure.
you have a learning and enablement process from the paper world and implement it in the digital process in the new
Right,
new world, right?
right.
You have to talk to people.
Yep,
You talked about comfort systems and the focus on people, technology,
yep,
financials. People is a key part.
yep.
If you just have the mindset of focusing on value, you'll
Yeah,
see automatically a lot of the problems will solve. You will get solutions to your own questions,
absolutely. Let's talk about another important member of this process, and that's the customer, right? Ultimately, we're improving functional processes within field service delivery and execution, and ultimately that lands on the customer's doorstep, right? Can you share any examples of how field service technology has improved that customer experience, and or maybe just sharing your viewpoint on the importance of the customer's voice in these?
Absolutely. And John, you talked about servitization, right?
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
look at the evolution of let's say, the industrial manufacturing sector over the last 20 years, we would sell an equipment,
yep,
deliver it, and move on, right? That has transformed, rightly so,
yeah,
to selling a service.
yep,
I'm not just selling you an equipment, I'll provide you the service. So the servitization, it's all about the customer. It's about our customers and their customers. So the focus, just like we're focusing on the front line, focusing on delivering value to the customers is important. We also talked about, I tend to boil it down to my day-to-day life, right? 10 years back, my internet would be down. I would call Comcast and they would give me a 6-hour window. These were the days when everybody was going to office 5 days a week.
sure,
I would have to take time off, stay
yep,
at home, not sure when the person would come, and wait for it.
yeah,
Now you get a window. Now
yep,
you can communicate with your customers. One of the things we do is we have enabled an interface powered by Gen AI where a customer can interact with our solution.
hmm,
Right? We have a customer portal where you can ask questions. Hey, not even clicking and looking for it. Ask questions. Where are we? When is the technician expected to come?
interesting,
So, and across the industry, I'm seeing a lot of innovation happening, which is
yep,
great, which is good for a customer because at the end of the day, from a field service organization's perspective, you're looking to reduce your cost, increase your revenue, keep your employees happy. If your
yeah,
customers are happy, your revenues will go up. Your
yep,
revenues will go up. So
yep.
a lot of good things are happening. A lot of good things are happening across the board.
Outstanding, outstanding. Let's go circle back to a comment you've made pretty consistently as a thread throughout the conversation, and that is that this journey is a continuum, right? It's not a start and a finish. It's not a project-based engagement. It's part of life in the world of your business, right? It's going to be an ever non-stopping journey that you're on. So but as you sort of look at the maturity phases across that journey, can you maybe share for our listening audience how you've seen organizations kind of transcend across a set of sort of maturity phases and or gates before they progress towards something a little bit more advanced? Is there kind of like beginner, intermediate, advanced? Talk a little bit about what you've seen commonly deployed in terms of that maturity framework.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are maturity phases. I think when we connect with a customer, it's fairly easy for us to understand the maturity level. And I'm not saying it in a pompous way. It's just the mindset, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we shared some of these. If you're looking at it as a technology project, we know that you're just at the beginner stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, the more advanced ones they understand, they immediately get why we are pushing for agile. They immediately get why we are asking for value realization metrics early on, why we are asking for benchmarks, why we want to go live quickly in 8 weeks and then keep iterating.
Yep.
uh, they understand the concept of keeping everyone involved, why we are insisting that in the workshop you should have multiple stakeholders. So we get those signals. We play a role accordingly. If you are early in the stage, there's a lot more of education and heads up. And hey, I know you like a fixed budget implementation, but let me tell you the challenges of waterfall. We can do it, but you will not see value. We give them templates, how you should align with stakeholders. We help them understand the value. We help them understand how to get the front line and the customers involved early on.
Interesting.
For the ones who are more involved, then you're helping them on the journey. They're already on the path. Then the questions are a bit more evolved. Hey, what should be the next innovation layer? What should I look at? How can I better leverage Zinier? A simple example is, John, our vision when we started the company was to create a platform which the IT teams or the SIs can run with.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to get involved. Our builders will be so mature that you can run with it.
Sure.
For a person who's early on in the journey, they'll get nervous. We hold their hands. We'll say, don't worry. We'll just release the apps. We'll do it for you. The more advanced ones, now they're coming to us and say, hey, can you train us on your platform?
Right. Right.
So we have launched a very elaborate platform training model. We have trained the trainer sessions. One of our uh, customers flew into our delivery center in India, and they had a week-long training center. We are sending
Outstanding.
another a team from India to our partner in the Midwest to train them. So that's the next stage. So it's a good question. We try to map where our customer is and then
Sure.
hopefully hold their hand and put them on the path. And by doing that, uh, hopefully we're driving change. It's not just about selling a software for us. It's about driving change in the mindset, in the overall field service industry, because that's what will help us realize our why, which is impacting the people, which is impacting the frontline workforce. And I call it making blue collar sexy again.
I love it. I love it. And so let's get into an area that I think is really important. And so just to reference back to the Comfort Systems USA workshop, that's part of a series of workshops that the Service Council will be hosting on site at our member organizations. So we were in December, we were at AAA down in Florida talking about AI. We just held one at Comfort Systems, as we talked about. In April, courtesy of Verizon, we'll be in Boston talking about mastering remote support. And this coming June, we'll be in Atlanta at Coca-Cola talking about extending enterprise technology value across the extended service network. How do we control the controllables, but also empower and enable that extended service network? And with the complexity of service network building for manufacturers, and it's not just your W-2 that's impacting the product or brand experience. It's independence, it's your competitors in a multi-vendor services setting, it's dealers, franchisees on the consumer side of things and retail side of things. It's quite complex. And some of these smaller organizations that are part of the network don't necessarily have the strength of enterprise infrastructure of the OEM and the manufacturer. So how are you seeing the extension of enterprise technology value happen across that service network? What are some of the approaches that you've seen taken?
Yeah, I think That's one of the benefits of a no code, low code platform, a flexible platform.
Sure.
You can create workflows and make it available to everyone. A lot of our customers work with contractors. We have talked about
Sure.
the dearth of skilled workforce.
Yep.
A way to navigate around that is to have contractor workforce. The people
Yep.
are doing. So
Yep.
the flexibility helps there in the technology.
Yeah.
From a customer-based perspective, we have the elaborate systems for the enterprise. You can have an instance which works for the smaller organizations. We can carve it out. You can have workflows tailored to them. So when we talk about a flexible tech stack, when we talk about configurability using our workflows, these are some of the use cases where it helps.
Yeah.
I get a lot of, these questions are very standard. Hey, can you work with contractors? Because if you look at historically, employees and contractors creating solutions were difficult. And I
Sure.
said, yeah, of course. I mean, it's workflow customization. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And I hope you see the benefits, because as you have more variables in the overall equation, the higher is the need of a flexible platform. You
Yeah.
cannot have you cannot have an out of the box solution working towards it.
Yeah.
And likewise, you cannot keep custom building everything, because then, to your original question, how does it tie into everything?
Right. Right.
That flexibility becomes all the more important, John. Yeah.
Absolutely. So could we dig in on that flexible, the use of the phrase flexible again? You've given a couple of examples, but what does it mean to be flexible in the technology stack? Let's go right there.
Yeah. See, from a field service perspective,
Hmm.
uh, I use the word flexibility synonymous with customization and configuration
Sure.
in the field service domain.
Sure.
Can I have, let's say, I'm a scheduler
Yep.
working on the web. Can I create my own web tasks?
Hmm.
Right. Let's say I will have to accept uh, an image that is being sent on the site. I don't need to go to IT or my SI to create a web page or a task.
Right.
Similarly, on the mobile side,
Hmm.
I've shared those examples. If I'm a field technician engineer going out to the field, my workflow, my mobile screen is tailored to me, my experience, than compared to someone who's going to another job somewhere else, and those can be changed quickly.
Right.
Right? So all these workflows, I think of it as customizing workflows within the field service context.
Interesting.
Now, this is flexibility in the field service domain. Now, when you talk about flexibility in the tech stack, right, my field service system exists in an ecosystem. Right?
Hmm.
It has to talk to CRM. It has to talk to asset management.
Sure.
It needs to talk to an HRIS system.
Yep.
Right? You will have a data lake somewhere where I need to send data, pull data. How is that interoperability working?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do I have APIs? Is it flexible enough to integrate with anything? Uh,
Yep.
and that overall picture has to be clear to our customers, because that will drive
Interesting.
change, that will drive digital transformation.
It's really interesting. I picked up on something in your commentary around almost this element of personalization of the
Yes.
technology, right? Um, which it has two sides to that sword. One is personalization, and it meets the needs of the user and the person and the individual. The other is that you've got 14 million different variations of, the flavor of vanilla or chocolate, whatever you want to call it, and then you've got some potential issues in terms of common standardization of language and interoperability. How have you seen the navigation of both enabling personalization but also standardization? Are those two things, can they work together in the same sandbox?
Yeah. And John, this it's a good point. This problem has been solved in other industries. Right?
Yeah,
When
yeah,
you're custom building a software with SIs, yeah, the
sure,
problem of customization comes in.
sure.
When you give a framework of no code, low code tools on the platform, right?
Yeah,
In
yeah,
our we have workflows which say, hey, on the mobile side, you need to build mobile workflows. They are templates, right?
yep,
There are things that you can do and what you can do. It's
yep,
not like, hey, I will come and start building mobile workflows from the scratch. No, there are templates. There are do's and don'ts. Similarly, on the website, we have do's and don'ts. Uh, so there are guidelines on what you can do,
sure,
and that brings in the standardization. That's what, in simple terms, your no code, low code applications will enable you to do. And that point is important. You have to strike that balance
sure.
in our marketing messaging and stuff. We paint both these worlds, a world where you are using out of the box SaaS tools, which
Yep.
are very fixed and solving a part of the problem, and you cannot change anything. And there are good solutions. They
Sure.
solve a part of the problem. On the other hand, you go to an SI and they custom build something for you. It will solve all your problems, but it will be expensive and custom built, and it may not grow with time. It may not be interoperable.
Yeah.
We are bringing the best of both worlds. We
Outstanding.
are giving you out of the box solutions, but we are also providing frameworks that will help you to keep personalizing and tailoring it to your needs and grow with the future.
Outstanding. I love that. I love that. It's not just personalization and flexibility for the moment. It's to come with you on that journey that you've been talking about.
And by the way, John, it's interesting. We have learned our lessons the hard way. A few years back when we started selling, we talked
Sure.
about this. Customers after buying would say, "Hey, you said you could customize anything. Why can you not do this?
Right.
Why can you not do that?"
Right.
In their mind, when you think of customization, said we can do everything.
Right.
And then we started educating them on, hey, what are the parameters? This is
Right.
not a custom solution. It's
Right.
a tailoring or a personalization of it. Here are the parameters. This is what you can do. These are the workflows. This is what it means. It doesn't mean that you'll come to me and we'll build a new software for you.
Yeah.
That's what the SIs do. So and it's a good point, and there's
Yeah.
constant education, and you can connect the dots. People who are early in the digital transformation journey, they are the ones who will need more time to understand.
Right.
Folks who get it,
Right.
and folks who have already been on the journey and delivered value, becomes an easier conversation. They get it, they ask for the boundaries, and then we move forward.
Let's get into another theme that we are seeing emerge, and that is that 2024 will be a year of consolidation of and/or elimination of technical debt, right? There's too many redundant systems that are present. How can we sunset those? We even see, like my point earlier about the technology trends, investment trends. There are some enterprise grade customers and members that are sunsetting their enterprise field service management systems, that they are displacing long-standing systems that they've had in place, they've made major investments in. They're opening up new technology explorations because of the requirement to be flexible in moving forward. But I'm curious, are you seeing a similar trend that as you're engaging with both customers and prospects, are you hearing a lot of focus on this elimination of redundant technical databases and the silos that exist because of that, and maybe even sunsetting of enterprise systems that have been used in the incumbent for decades? Is that something that you're hearing?
Absolutely, John. I mean,
Yeah.
we run into two kinds of customers. There's one type, so I call it the green customers who are transitioning from pen and paper to digital.
Sure.
Green field. The second type where they have had systems
Yeah.
which have served them well, but they're not growing with their business.
Yep.
And they look to transition, which
Sure.
we welcome because we are winning, customers from the TOAs and the clicks of the world, which were great systems 10 years back. But if you're not bringing in that flexibility in your tech stack, you're not
Yeah.
maturing.
Yeah.
So majority of our recent wins have been such transitions where they are at the end of life, and we are bringing over the customers to our platform. Right.
Outstanding.
And another thing that's happening, I would say, is that when you're starting off on the digital transformation journeys, you go for specific point solutions, and they might be great products. But over time, when you have a number of point solutions solving specific parts of the problem, have you thought about the employee interaction or the customer, the end user interaction,
Sure.
or the technician interaction? So we are also seeing a lot of companies who are not only retiring their existing field service solutions, they want to go away from specific point solution and have a holistic approach. Hey, what's my strategy? And this is the evolution of digital transformation as well.
Sure.
Have my wins. Now, can I take a step back and say, what is my holistic data strategy?
Yep.
The role of CIO becomes very important. How do I stitch things together?
Yep.
We are talking to a big industrial customer in the US, in the South. And they have a homegrown solution for a
Sure.
part of it.
Sure.
They have taken a SaaS application, they've stitched things together,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're going through a decision on how do we continue to grow? Do we continue to invest in our homegrown solution? Because they're not a technology company. They are an industrial company. Technology is not their strength. So For them to do the same thing, it will take a lot more resources than what it takes us.
Right.
So we are talking to them about the entire digital transformation. Say, hey, you can get it on our platform. We can do it for you. It's future proof,
Sure.
not just sell one time and move on. So we are seeing all of that. We are seeing all
Sure.
of that, switching over from existing systems, moving away from point solutions to more holistic solutions. And it's an exciting time to be here.
Outstanding. Let's get into some of the business improvements that one can expect from this type of a journey. What are the metrics that are most greatly impacted that you're commonly hearing from customers? And can you share like the level of improvement, the impact on the organization, whether it be operational throughput, whether it be cost reduction, whether it be revenue improvement, any metrics that you can share with us from your customers?
Yeah. So, John, we tend to break it down into three simple metrics. Everything else comes after that. As a
Sure.
business, you're either looking to increase your revenue,
Yep.
looking to decrease your cost, and the third one we add is employee engagement, which has impacts on both. Now, these are the three top metrics. Now, depending on the industry, right? Uh, Historically, we have tended to over anchor on reducing costs, which is
Yep.
productivity measurements.
Yep.
And then you start getting into, okay, am I reducing my specific industry struck roles or
Yep.
getting the job done right the first time? Or productivity per tech, how many jobs the tech is doing, all of those metrics come into play. On
Sure.
the revenue side, you're talking about if your customers are happy, your revenue should be going up.
Yep.
Right. Employee engagement is important to us. As we talked about it, the field engineers, the back office people, they should be a part of this innovation. So we stress on it that if you don't take care of your employees today, you're going to face problems.
Yeah.
You're going to face problems. You have to keep them engaged. So what we do is value realization. When we start the project, we map out. Tell us what metrics are important to you.
Yep.
Okay? In some cases, on a productivity basis, we even do POCs. We have done POCs, or quick POCs, where we take the data, run it through our algorithms
Yep.
and show them improvements on what
Sure.
they are doing. Just this is basic productivity of scheduling.
Yep.
32 to 38% improvement, just basic from a productivity perspective of scheduling, right?
Yep.
When you get into the field and adoption and stuff, we have seen big improvements on the productivity side, up to 50%. Revenue becomes difficult to manage. We cannot measure it. That's for our customers to do it. But we empowered them with all these value realization metrics. But eventually, are you reducing your cost? Are you increasing your revenue? Are you keeping your employees happy?
Love it.
Those are the three big drivers that we measure.
Love it. That's great. Let's get into the sort of two things. One is any pitfall or horror stories that you've heard in terms of things to potentially avoid when embarking on this type of a journey. And then the second thing that I'd like to get into with you, Prateek, is what's next for the field service space. AI is obviously like Gen AI is through the roof right now. Maybe we can double click on that topic. But what else? What's beyond AI that we're not talking enough about? So I'll leave you with those two questions.
The pitfalls. Say number. I tell people don't get enamored with technology. Focus on the value.
Sure.
Wherever, and I think I shared with you, I've had 3 failed big digital transformation projects in my career. Not as an entrepreneur, when I was part of the corporate. And there are common threads there. The big bang approach. We will change everything in 18 months.
Yeah.
Getting enamored with technology and not the value, not keeping stakeholders involved. I mean,
Sure.
those are some of the pitfalls. There are more horror stories than success stories, unfortunately, across all industries in digital transformation. We just don't get to talk about this as much. You only get to see the wins. In terms of next, see. I tend to think in terms of value, John. Yes, there are technology trends. I'll give you an example of Gen AI, right?
Sure.
Customers are coming up with Gen AI, and my first question is, have you thought through the value? And they're like, no, what do you mean value? But actually, our industry is ripe for Gen AI use cases.
Yeah.
It's like the number of use cases you can enable. A simple case of which we do. Uh, your field engineer goes to the field, is doing some work, and she encounters a problem. Typically, what will happen, she'll try calling someone, she'll not get anyone, she'll come back and go the next day. Imagine if she starts asking questions. You have all the history of that equipment, you have, you know, every possible information available. It starts asking questions. Hey, this is where I'm stuck. What can I do next? It's a simple integration with a chat and an LLM,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
there are so many use cases that you can empower.
Yep.
Yes, Gen AI is interesting. No code, low code applications are interesting. What is the value you're delivering? I tend to focus on that. If you are focused on the value, which we have talked about a lot,
Yeah.
delivering value, the industry will progress. So from
Absolutely.
a technology point of view, yes, I'm very excited about Gen AI. I think there are a lot of applications, but I'm excited not because it's Gen AI, because it is going to deliver value. And we are enabling that. It is going to deliver a lot of value. I'm excited about no code, low code. I think we're just scratching the surface with no code, low code applications. People still don't get it, but I am excited. Zinier is excited. We are betting on it because I see it delivering value over next 10, 15 years.
Outstanding. Love it. And so if we look at big picture, right? So industry segments, geographic regions, those that are underpopulated of these types of innovations at this stage, right? Where are the growth opportunities that perhaps these organizations, these industries, or these market segments haven't necessarily taken that leap forward? Where do you think those exciting opportunities still exist in the marketplace?
Yeah, we're seeing the core infrastructure industries.
Hmm.
I would say they're a few steps behind, John.
Sure.
We're seeing huge opportunities there. The move big stuff, big,
Yeah.
huge dollars.
Yeah.
Uh, the resistance to change is higher. The
Yep.
fear of adoption is higher. The lack of
Yep.
understanding of digital transformation, and rightly so,
Yep. Yep.
is there. Big infrastructure industries, we're seeing huge, huge opportunities
Yeah.
and big dollar value as well. Big dollar value as well.
Sure.
Uh, Africa is an interesting market. We haven't gone into it. When you think about infrastructure development, a lot is happening in Asia and Africa. The market dynamics are very different. So we are keeping an eye on that.
Great.
We're already
Interesting.
present in Europe, Latin America, and US. I think
Yep.
the good thing about field service is it is applicable to every single country, every single person in the world.
Sure.
The question is what kind of market dynamics exist? What kind of value we can extract
Yep.
and provide.
Yep.
I'll give you a simple example on the value piece, right?
Sure.
We looked at a number of markets in Asia,
Hmm.
right? We talked about delivering value, we talked about technology, and then we realized because the availability of labor is high and the cost is lower, there's only so much benefit the technology can bring.
Yeah.
If you take a futuristic lens, yes, I can convince someone, but I tell people to look at cost and look at value starting from day one. We cannot hold water to that.
Right.
So there are markets which would be difficult to penetrate unless you have a really long-term view. But there are other markets where labor is scarce. There's immediate value you can bring in, and as we are growing as a startup, we want to prioritize on those opportunities and making sure that we are also creating value for our investors and shareholders and moving forward.
Let's ask a couple personal questions about you. So Warren Buffett, it's suggested that he reads almost 8 hours a day. Mark Cuban, 3 hours a day. Bill Gates, over 50 books a year. What are you currently reading, and what's that one book that you've read and you keep going back to?
I do read. I read about, I would say, 24 to 30 books a year.
Wow, that's great.
Uh, I read all kinds of stuff. Read a lot of historical fictions and non-fictions. I'm more of a history geek. So my reading pattern is I pick a domain or phase in history
Cool.
that I want to know about, and I pick books around that, and I keep switching. This year, I've read 3 books, and all 3 have been autobiographies.
Oh, really?
For some reason, I think somebody recommended, and
Cool.
I read Obama's autobiography.
Wonderful.
Fascinating, fascinating. The way it has been narrated, the way he has written it, the way he has portrayed himself as a leader, the
Yeah.
amazing. I highly recommend if you want to know
Cool.
about how a government works and what goes on behind. Amazing. I read Trevor Noah's autobiography. Talked about him growing up in the apartheid era in South Africa.
Very cool.
Fascinating. I mean, that gives you insight. We went to South Africa as a family. That's another thing I love doing last summer. And you see, you hear about apartheid. And I grew up in India. Of course, we were very close to South Africa
Yeah.
from a sports perspective, politics perspective. Beautiful, beautiful book. And the third one that I just finished, Rajat Gupta's autobiography,
Yeah.
ex MD of McKinsey, convicted of insider trading. He did not testify during his trial. And his autobiography about his life, one of the most successful US businessmen, comes from India,
Interesting.
Harvard educated, went to McKinsey, 37 years there, served on the nonprofit boards, and his story, fascinating. So I've never read a lot of autobiographies. I'm
Yeah.
falling in love. There are
Cool.
a couple of books that I on the business side that has left an impression
Sure.
on me. I'm a huge Simon Sinek fan,
Yep.
starting with Why.
Yep.
Uh, it has helped us crystallize our mission and vision. We get hung up on the words mission and vision. I tell my company, I don't care about what is the mission and vision. I know why we exist. Let me tell you why.
Right.
And I simplify it down. There's a book by Frank Slootman, is the CEO of Snowflake, called Amp It Up.
Cool.
Very simple concepts, very easy to read. It says, hey, narrow down your focus, keep the bar high, increase the speed of execution. So I
Love
tend to
it.
go back to those basics. Some of these books that I do try to read more often than not. I don't remember most of the stuff, but I enjoy. I enjoy
That's
the
awesome.
experiences.
Outstanding. Well, listen, we are pleased and humbled to have you join us in an advisory board capacity. We feel better now with you on board. So thank you. You have extensive experience. I love the journey on the personal side of frontline field service engineer to CEO. That's just something that's so cool, and the approach you're taking to innovation is also really cool, and just adds a new dynamic to the board. So thank you for joining. What do you expect to get in terms of value at the board level?
So, John, first of all, thank you for having me. It's humbling. I want to learn and I want to make a change. And of course, hopefully, the audience has gathered that I'm very passionate about this sector. Probably because of my journey, I've seen the world. I'm hugely passionate. I'm hurt by the fact that people don't want to get into field service.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want more people to find it sexy. I would be proud when my daughters come and say, Papa, tell me more about field service. I just don't want to code. I want to know about field service. So I want to make a change. I alone cannot make a change. Zinier alone won't make a change,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's all of us as a community. And I
Absolutely.
mentioned this when I first met you, that the community aspect is important. I want to learn. I want to make a change. There's so much to learn, and can we come together as the right minds and drive that change? For me, that's what I'm looking for. And I can
Love it.
share the passion. Most of my friends here are techies, John. They talk about innovation in the white collar world, and that's great. I want a community where everything is important, but don't ignore us. We want to make change. That's what I'm looking for.
I
I'm
love it.
looking to learn. I'm looking to drive change.
Well, that passion is something that attracted us to you. So thank you for joining the board. We expect to get tremendous value out of it, including today's session. So this has been really a great resource for our listenership. Let's leave our listenership with something on the personal side. You mentioned some of the books that you enjoy. What's something you're looking forward to that our community might not know about you?
Family, first and foremost.
Yeah.
We're a family of five. I have the boss wife. She's the boss. I have twin daughters. I have a real gangster at home, my 3-year-old Bernadoodle. The life revolves around those five. It's regular stuff. We travel a lot. We are a huge fan of cultures. I've lived in 12 different countries, so that kind of flows into the family. So I'm always, if I'm not working, I'm working on itineraries for our next trip.
Very
I'm
cool.
an avid reader. I'm a huge sports fan. Huge sports fan. So you can grab a drink and talk about sports anytime, any day. But yeah, just regular stuff, trying to enjoy my time with the family and explore the world. Explore the world.
I love it. Well, listen, to our listening audience, thank you for joining us today. He is Prateek Chakravarty. He is the CEO of Zinier. Prateek, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I think this was a great session, a great resource for our listenership. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you, John. Thanks to all.